This is what a $100 million wedding actually looks like. That number is insane, but what they actually did is even crazier. This wasn't just some expensive party. They took over an entire historic island, had a one-of-a-kind dress made, and the guest list was more powerful than most countries. This wedding was so over the top that people were literally protesting it in the streets. I'm talking about the wedding of Amazon's Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez. And it wasn't just a party. It was a mind-blowing display of power and money on a scale that's almost impossible to believe. So, how much did this party really cost? And what do you even get for that much money? Today, we are breaking down the final price tag, every insane detail, and all the controversy. From an army of private jets to priceless jewels, you are about to see what happens when the world's richest man throws the biggest party of his life. Let's start with the price, because $100 million is a number that just breaks your brain. The couple never gave the official number, and some reports were just guessing, but the president of the entire region gave a real estimate. He said it cost between $47 and $56 million. Other reports say it was even less, maybe 10 or 20 million. To show you how insane that is, if a normal family spent the same percentage of their money on a wedding, their budget would be less than $250. Bezos's wedding budget is a number so big it doesn't even feel real. It literally redefines the word expensive. So, where do you throw a party this massive? You pick a location that is literally a priceless work of art, Venice, Italy. But they didn't just book a venue. They held the ceremony on the island of San Giorgio Maggiore. You can't just go online and book this place. It's a public, historic landmark with a 16th century church designed by the legendary architect Andrea Palladio. It has one of the most famous views in the entire world. To get permission to use this spot for a private wedding takes crazy influence and, apparently, huge donations. The city of Venice actually fought to host the wedding because they wanted the marriage of the century. The logistics alone were unbelievable. They hired a private army of 30 water taxis just to move guests around so they wouldn't have to use public boats. The city said about 200 guests were invited, which they thought they could handle. But all this luxury had a dark side. The wedding made local activists furious. They said it was proof that Venice was being taken over by the mega-rich while the city is dealing with too many tourists, insane housing costs, and is literally sinking. People were literally hanging banners from buildings that said, "Kisses yes, Bezos no." Activists even threatened to crash the party, and the pressure got so intense that the couple had to move their final party at the last minute. They moved it to a secret shipyard complex called the Arsenale with way more security. This battle between insane luxury and public anger was a huge part of the whole event, like a fairy tale, with a protest happening right outside the castle. When your guests are the most powerful people on Earth, you don't just book a block of rooms. You take over the most exclusive, most expensive hotels in one of the most expensive cities on the planet. The guest list was a who's who of global power, and they were all staying in Venice's most legendary hotels: the Gritti Palace, the Hotel Cipriani, and the Aman, where Bezos and Sanchez stayed. These aren't just hotels, they are actual palaces. The Aman is a 16th century palace on the Grand Canal known for its privacy. The Hotel Cipriani is on its own private island, and the Gritti Palace has the best views of the Grand Canal. To handle 250 guests, they basically booked out 5 of the city's fanciest hotels. The cost for just the hotels was probably millions of dollars. It's a crazy complicated operation to make sure every single guest, from movie stars to tech billionaires, gets the best service and privacy. The arrival of the guests was a show in itself. Dozens and dozens of private jets, some people said almost 100, landed at the airport. From there, a private fleet of fancy wooden water taxis took them to their hotels. But it wasn't just about the rooms. They gave every guest a goodie bag. The men got fancy velvet slippers, and the women got plush slippers from a brand you might have heard of, Amazon. A funny little nod to where all the money for this came from. For any wedding, the dress is a huge deal. But for Lauren Sanchez, her dress was a work of art that took over a year and a half to make. She had the iconic Italian designers Dolce and Gabbana make it, which was a cool nod to being in Italy. Sanchez said the final dress wasn't just a gown, it was a piece of poetry. They revealed the dress on the cover of Vogue, which is a massive power move, proving this wasn't just a wedding, it was a huge cultural event. It was a high-necked, corseted gown made of super delicate Italian lace, with a mermaid shape and 180 chiffon-covered buttons. The whole thing took over 900 hours of work to create. The inspiration was old-school Hollywood. Sanchez told Vogue she looked at brides from the 1950s and loved a photo of Sophia Loren. She was inspired by the dress Loren wore to marry Cary Grant in the movie Houseboat. The design had a similar corset and lace, creating a classic but show-stopping look. Sanchez, who usually wears more revealing clothes, told Vogue, "It is a departure from what people expect, but it's very much me. But for a party this big, one dress is never enough." For the dinner, she changed into a second gown. For the after-party, she wore a mind-blowing Oscar de la Renta dress covered in 175,000 crystals. And for the final party, she wore a fourth custom gown by Versace. Even her something borrowed was insane. Earrings with 4 diamonds cut from one giant stone. This was a collection of dresses for the history books, with a price tag bigger than most people's entire weddings. The venue was legendary, the fashion was insane, but the most unbelievable part of this wedding was the guest list. We're talking about so much power in one place, it's actually scary. If you're enjoying this, smash that subscribe button, because what's coming next is crazy. Now, let's see who actually got an invite. When you're Jeff Bezos, your guest list is a crazy display of global power. The 200 guests were a hand-picked collection of giants from Hollywood, tech, fashion, and finance. You had Kim Kardashian, Kris Jenner, and Corey Gamble. You had Leonardo DiCaprio with his girlfriend Vittoria Ceretti. You had Orlando Bloom and Tom Brady. You had Oprah, who showed up with her friend Gayle King. The list was also a who's who of business and politics. Microsoft founder Bill Gates was there. Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner were there. Fashion icon Diane von Furstenberg and her billionaire husband Barry Diller also came. Even actual royalty showed up, with Queen Rania of Jordan. This wasn't a party, it was a summit. It is literally impossible to calculate the combined net worth of everyone there that weekend. It was the ultimate networking event. Even their no gifts rule was on another level. Instead of presents, they donated 1 million euros each to 3 different charities to save the city. That's 3 million euros. It was their way of giving back after all the protests, a nod to the city they basically rented. A wedding this huge is never just one night. This was a 3-day festival of pure luxury, where every single event was crazier than the last. The whole thing was a perfectly planned 3-day party, starting Thursday and going all weekend. First, they kicked things off with a welcome party at a closed-off church. Guests got to eat incredible food, including pizza cooked right there, fried zucchini flowers, arancini, and octopus, with pastries and lemon cakes for dessert. Next was the main event, the actual black tie wedding ceremony on Friday on the private island. As Loren walked down the aisle, the son of the legendary singer Andrea Bocelli, Matteo Bocelli, performed live, which made the historic moment even more epic. But the real party was the final one. After the ceremony, they took everyone to an ancient shipyard for a huge reception that turned into a full-blown concert. And the headliner was the superstar, Usher. He gave a crazy high-energy performance that got everyone dancing. He was followed by the famous DJ Cassidy, who kept the party going all night long. There were rumors that Lady Gaga and Elton John might perform, but that never happened. And they had a strict no-phone policy, so it was basically a private Usher concert for 200 of the most powerful people in the world to end an unforgettable weekend. So, what does a wedding that costs tens of millions of dollars actually get you? For Jeff Bezos and Loren Sanchez, it was more than a party. It was a global event that set a new bar for crazy celebrations. Every detail was insane. They used a historic island as their venue. They had a private performance from Matteo Bocelli. The custom Dolce & Gabbana dress was just one of 4 incredible outfits the bride wore, and they topped it all off with a private concert from Usher. But the wedding was also super controversial. All the private jets and the insane spending made locals furious, saying their city was just a playground for the rich. The protest banners became just as much a part of the story as the celebrities, showing the massive difference between the fairy tale party and the real-world problems of the city that hosted it. In the end, this wedding was a perfect snapshot of our world today, an insane spectacle of wealth, a meeting of celebrity and power, and a huge fight about inequality. It set a new, almost impossible standard for what a wedding can even be. But I have to ask you guys, what do you think? Was this a beautiful celebration of love and an awesome display of what money can buy? Or was it a completely tone-deaf display of wealth in a world with so many problems? Let me know in the comments below.